And since you see him eating a squirrel, this is all I needed to see.
You want some too, old man?
Man, I'm here. I'm ready to rock out, man.
Welcome into Command Center, Commanders family. Free agency is all the buzz, and we are breaking down all of our new Commanders. And speaking of new Commanders, we got a new dynamic weapon. Logan Paulson breaks down in the film room our newest receiver. And future Hall of Famer Brian Mitchell joins the show to break down what Commanders he's most excited about during this free agency. And Commanders family, that all starts right now. It was a big week for General Manager Adam Peters and the Commanders. Washington welcoming in new players, including wide receiver Debo Samuel from San Francisco and left tackle Laramie Tunsil in a big trade with Houston. The Commanders also re-signed multiple players, including some cornerstone veterans and linebackers Bobby Wagner, tight end Zach Ertz, and punter Tress Way. Welcome into Command Center, Commanders family. Brian Cooper Jr. here with Santana Moss, Fred Smoot, and Logan Paulson is back in the building. Fellas, a huge offseason for us so far, so I got to start because we're going to dive into it a little deeper later in the show. But Logan, what has been your favorite acquisition so far?
Well, obviously I was really excited when they re-signed both tight ends, but then they went out and traded for Laramie Tunsil. And when you go out and trade for that big old hoss right there, man, the way he moves, what he can do for the offense, man, we're going to talk about more detail later, but that makes this team so much more dynamic, and so I'm really juiced about that signing.
It gives an edge to those wild boards. Yeah. You know how I like to talk about that wild board where they got a king board in there right now. But I'm going to keep it right in the trenches, baby. Yeah. It's all about Kinlaw. When you bring size to match on offense and defense, you understand the task at hand. The task was we could not stop the run. We did not win the trench warfare with Philadelphia last year. So we said, okay, we got a couple of things that we'll do about it. First thing we're going to do, we're going to go out here and get this DC boy with the attitude. I don't know if y'all seen the interview with him and BC, but it is electric. It is honest. And now you see the passion from this kid and what we got. It's Kinlaw, baby, and I cannot wait to see him.
How you feel about the logos, the chains? I know you love it.
I love the originality. And since you see him eating a squirrel, this is all I needed to see.
Tanner, man, who has been your favorite acquisition so far?
I'm with them guys. We can talk a so and I'm out about so many of the, our newly, I guess you can say, acquisitions. You know what I mean? But I just love the fact that we brought a lot of guys back that played an integral role in our success last year. When you see Bobby Wagner coming back, when you see Ertz, when you see guys like both of the Noahs coming back. All of Mac Nichols, all those guys who had a key role in where we went last year, that kind of gave me that feeling like, you know what, we can honestly go out there and have the same kind of intensity, the same kind of tone set because these guys was here. And now everybody else who we add to the puzzle, now they have to get on board. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, when you win the NFC Championship, when you get to the NFC Championship, you don't got to change too much, right? So it's nice to see those guys, but it has been nice to see the new guys as well. Let's take a look at the full list of our new Commanders. New faces in Washington after the first week of free agency. You see, we have Laramie Tunsil. We got him from the Texans. Debo Samuel, we acquired him from the 49ers. Then Javon Kinlaw. He also played for the 49ers, but he's coming from the Jets. Will Harris, our safety out of the Saints. A lot of people are excited to see him. And then the two-time Super Bowl winner, Jonathan Jones, and much, much more. And Commanders family, it feels like we're just getting started. Time for securing the W, presented by Hercules Fence. Security in every job. Fellas, you saw all those acquisitions. It's been a big free agency so far. Logan, I'm going to start with you. Laramie Tunsil made a big trade to get that blind side that you want for Jaden Daniels. How you feeling about that trade?
I mean, I feel tremendous about it. No, tremendous doesn't do it justice.
It's too small.
So I have never been more excited about an offseason move, because it's just so hard to find left tackles at any capacity in free agency, right? So like you look at all the free agents that were available, right? Ronnie Stanley, the guy from LA, the guy from Jacksonville, they all re-signed because good teams understand that we cannot let this commodity outside of our building. So what did Adam Peters do? He went out and said, we're not going to be able to find one in free agency. It's going to be tough to find one in the draft at 29. Let's go make our own luck. Let's go find a guy who, to me, is a top 6, top 7 offensive player in the NFL right now. And so that is a special piece, and it gives you so much flexibility along the offensive line. Lets you take that big body of Brandon Coleman, move him wherever you need to move him, and then all of a sudden you get your best 5 on the field. So to me, this is game-changing for the organization. It's game-changing for the offense. I think it's game-changing for Jaden Daniels' development. So I cannot be more excited about this move.
Hey, back in '85, a classic came out. The Fat Boys are back, and that's what you
85,
want.
huh?
Yeah, 1985. That's before your time. All right, the thing about it is, once you win trench warfare, like Logan was saying, it's hard to do because left tackles, maybe 1 or 2, 1.5 come out every year in the draft. You got to be in the top 10 to get those guys. So usually a team drafting at 29 doesn't have a legit chance to get a cornerstone guy at the tackle position for us to go out there and maneuver and get that guy. And he's still 29, 30 years old. Like, that's a blessing. And it also gives you now your offensive line can start to dictate turns when it comes to guys shifting to the right position in the right spot on the offensive line. I thought it was a great moment this offseason.
And Tanner, everybody looks at that acquisition and looks at a guy like Trent Williams. We haven't had a left tackle like that was that great. And I wanted to bring that up because that's your boy. You guys got a special relationship. How important is having a left tackle like that come into the locker room and affect everybody?
I think you don't know how important this is until you lose a guy like Trent Williams and then see, what that looked like for the last few years. It's great. I think Tunsil was around probably when I was leaving or whatever it was, but I remember his name. I remember him and Trent's name has always being mentioned, and I'm saying to myself, we just had this talk, like, how do we get in position to get a guy like that, to receive a guy like that? At times you hear so much about this guy may be traded, this guy may be up for a trade, but then we go out there and just make a trade happen and that you didn't even see in the future, that you didn't even see this team wanting to deal a guy like him that had so much upside, with his game and where their offense was going at. I think it's tremendous for what we said, before as far as, Jaden Daniels, our offensive line as a whole, putting other guys who was on that line in the right position. You name it. It's so many things that stands out to me that I guess you can say check off our list that we can get a plus from because we just made our offense that more dynamic.
And it's weird to talk about that too, Tana, because it's like you get an actual playmaker on the offensive line, which is a weird thing to talk about, right? You get a guy that can move out in space. You get a guy that you can isolate in pass protection. Then we can work the slide away. We can do a lot of different stuff now as an offensive play caller when I'm designing my protections, knowing how that piece. Think about how much chip help we gave to the offensive lineman last year. That limits the amount of eligibles we can get out in routes. That's not an issue anymore. We can trust him to win his matchup one-on-one, be a playmaker for the offense, create dynamism for the entire group. So it's a huge element schematically as well.
And Fred, it wasn't just the offense that added a playmaker. We added a playmaker from the Saints. Now, we lost the guy at Jeremy Chin. A lot of people were looking at, like, how do we replace that? We found a guy in Will Harris. You look at the Saints' Twitters, they're saying it. I can't believe we lost this guy. Very similar to how it was when we grabbed Jeremy Chin. How excited are you to add a guy like Will Harris?
He just used the word I hadn't heard before, dynamism.
Dynamism, baby.
Dynamism. This is what he is, balled up in the little ball on defense. He's explosive. He attacks the ball and he get there with some bad intentions. He knows how to track the ball. And if you really want to know as a Washington fan what we're really getting, just turn on the game from last year when we played him. He was all over the field. He's Johnny on the spot, and we getting him in a good, what I call the Goldilocks of his career right now. He's in that window where the game has slowed down for him, and he's ready to go out there and make plays on a big team, and we are a big team.
And Logan, we added other guys as well. Javon Kinlaw, Jonathan Jones, guy with Super Bowl experience. How do you think those kind of role player type guys that can come in and impact this defense?
Yeah, I think all those guys, even Wise, the defensive end, Goldman, all those guys are really interesting pieces because I think outside of Kinlaw, they're all guys that have tremendously high floors, right? So you get a guy in Jones who can back up multiple spots in the defense. He can play outside, play inside. He's got 9 years of experience. He can mentor room. Wise, Super Bowl experience as well. Great pass rusher, big body, gives you some flexibility in the front. And then you get Goldman, who is a guy who is great at stopping the run. And think about where we were weak last year. So filling holes, getting good pros across the front. And then you look at Kinlaw, and I think that's a really unique situation because he is so athletically gifted, right? And they're just kind of scratching the surface of what he can be. You look at his season last year, the last 3 games of last year were probably the best of his career. So you're getting an appreciating asset, which I think is incredibly important, and a guy who's so incredibly powerful and explosive. I can't wait to see what the staff does with him here.
And Logan, when you say the word athlete, I gotta mention Debo Samuel. We got the man from the Niners. It's been talks for years, it seems like, about Debo Samuel. Now we have him here at 10. How do you see him impacting this offense?
You want some too, old man? That's the first thing that comes to mind. You feel me? That's who Debo is. Debo can go out there. He ready to run with everybody. No, I think, man, when you look at what we did offensively, man, there was at times where we had, like he just spoke about, we had to bring guys in to, I guess you can say, leave guys at home to pass protect and make sure that we was able to. Sometimes we had 3 men in routes.
Yeah.
And when you look at a guy like Deebo, you get a guy that's a dynamic player that he can do so many things. You can line him up out wide, inside, in the backfield. I'm sure he's gonna be doing a hell of a lot of motioning.
Yeah, when he comes across
he takes eyes with him.
Yeah.
So that's gonna leave other guys open. That's gonna leave other opportunity open. And when you have a Noah Brown on the outside, Terry McLaurin on the outside, you name it, the guys in the backfield come out in the backfield. So I just love the fact when I first heard that we was getting them, and then you think about it. Folks saying that we gave up a third for that.
Yeah.
It's nobody in the third round this year that was going to be able to benefit, or that we was going to be able to benefit from, like a Debo Samuel.
Yeah.
So I just feel like the upside is great, and just knowing a guy like him who's already been talked about in this league ad nauseum about how he brings it, the intensity, the chip that he wears. You think he's not going to come in here with a chip, knowing what people are saying? Oh, well, you're not going to get the same Debo.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we going to see.
Yeah.
We going to see.
Motivation is a powerful weapon.
Yes,
He's
sir.
motivated.
Yeah.
And you talk about that 3rd round pick.
Yeah.
We traded Jahan just a few months before for a 3rd round pick. So that really puts in perspective. Debo coming, the rest of these free agents are coming. Fellas, what a fun offseason so far.
It's one thing for coaches to have expectations. It's one thing for fans to have expectations. But from you yourself, like you said, you're motivated, you're driven. What are Debo Samuel expectations for himself coming into the season?
Be the best version of myself.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to go to a level that I don't think I can go to, if that makes sense. People say receiver, running back, this is that and the third. Like I'm trying to step into another mode.
Yeah.
I sit down and like my boys, like one of my boys called me last night, and I was on the game. He was just like, "Man, what you up to?" I was like, "Bro, I'm chilling." He was like, "You worked out today?" I'm like, "What you mean did I work out today?" Like he was like, "Man, I'm just calling to check in, make sure you tapping in like this new version that we want you to be." And like, so it's not just me, it's my boys that I grew up with. It's everybody. So like, man, I'm here. I'm ready to rock out, man.
What a weapon to add to an already potent offense. You can catch our full sit-down interview with Deebo Friday night on the Commanders YouTube page. Now, it's time for your winning numbers presented by the Maryland Lottery. Please play responsibly. And when you think about winning numbers, you think about Debo Samuel's career numbers. In 6 seasons, he's gotten 334 receptions for over 4,700 receiving yards, over 1,100 rushing yards, and 42 total touchdowns. What a dual threat Jaden Daniels will get to play with. Now that we've seen those numbers, let me send it over to the guys so they can really break down the impact that Debo Samuel can make on this team. It's time for your can't miss moment presented by FanDuel. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official partner of the Washington Commanders.
Thanks, Ryan. And in the midst of all this free agent frenzy, we got to talk about the piece that's going to make this offense a little bit more dynamic, and that's our guy number 1, number 19, depending on what year of film you're watching, and that's Debo Samuel. And so we're going to kind of break this thing down and say why he's going to be such a dynamic piece of this offense. So this first play here, it's pretty easy. We got man coverage, right? Straight across the board, he's got the back, right?
Yep.
And we're going to run something, Tanny, that you know really well. I remember you watching cut-ups with Kyle and an all Santana Moss, a little bit of a choice route. So we're going to go out. He can go in or out, reading the defense across the field, going to get a release and a corner, and then a flare by the back, right?
Yeah.
So when we let this thing go, we see how the coverage disperse, right? We're getting man coverage, right?
Oh, yeah.
We're getting match here. He's matching here. That guy's matching there, right?
Natural pick there with the rub right there.
Love it. And then watch him get in. Tana, so talk us through this. What are you looking at here?
So one of the things you talked about, I hated the choice route.
Did you really?
Just to let you know, I hated it. Because, I'm one of those guys, I like to go right now.
Yeah.
And the choice, you have to be a little patient.
Yeah.
And you got a 3-way option. You can break out, you can sit down, or you got green grass, you can take that thing across the field. And I think right here, when you're watching this, something that you alluded to, Fred, when he saw that, okay, my guy, I have the leverage on my guy because there's going to be a natural rub here by this guy and this guy to my guy, he saw green grass, so he took the slant.
Yeah, so this is something that he does so well. He's not maybe like the best down the field receiver, but he does a really nice job in the intermediate. And watch him, easy catch here, and then I love a dog. I love a dog, man. And this dude,
That's a boxer.
There's 3 dudes right here, right?
How many wide receivers slide right there? How many wide receivers look for that ground right there and say, I need you?
And he says, no, thank you. I'm going to get in here. Bop, 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 bop,
find
bop,
a way.
bop. Let's get in there. Nice job. And so I look at this, Fred, and I say, think about this last year, even in the playoff game against Detroit, right? This ball is probably down right here. Then we got to go for it again. We got 3 downs to score a touchdown. Let's make it easy on the offense. Let's take small plays and make them big plays. It's a really fantastic job by
Just
Deebo.
relentless. Relentless with the ball in his hand.
I mean, this is physical right here. Physical.
That's a personality. That's a team personality right there.
And everyone talks about him playing running back. This is as early as we got the clip. He's right here. He's down on the bottom. Right? That's him down here. And he does such a good job of putting the defense in conflict, Fred. Because when he lines up in the backfield, you can't treat him like a receiver.
I can't take a cornerback and put that cornerback in the box, and now that cornerback has run responsibility. Now that quarterback would have to take, that cornerback had to take that B and that C gap when it comes to the run. So guess what we have to do? And we're forced to do this. We have to put the linebacker on him and treat him like a true running back. Big mistake by you.
Yeah, so that's exactly right. Because he can run the ball from the backfield, you can get these situations where you're like, how many times you get a #1 wide receiver
on a linebacker?
On a linebacker.
Never.
Tana, you dream of stuff like that.
Yes.
Right? That's because of what he can do with the football in his hands. And look, he's still got some vertical juice here, man. He gets down the field. He can make a play on the football.
Strong hands.
And then, Tana, like, Fred, you pointed this out. Like,
can't teach this right here.
Some people go down right here.
Right there. This is over. No, he's not going to do it. Look at the balance. Look at the strength. Look at the relentlessness. I want contact. He's going looking for contact.
That's exactly right. And so I look at this, and this is a play that the Washington Commanders ran a ton last year. Double in, so you're going to get this underneath, chair, some people call it. This is a completion play. We're going to get 5 yards on this play.
Always.
But when you got a guy like Debo Samuel in there, watch. Create him a little space. He's going to break that. He's going to break the first tackle. He's going to break the first tackle, and then he's got enough juice to get after it a little bit here. He's got enough juice now.
That Buick can still get down the highway right there. Like that's right there can't be taught. The players taught. How you run the players taught. But this right here, that's all hard.
And I think about just raising the floor of the offense, man. Raise the floor of the offense. And here we go. Last one. Just to prove a point, man. This is a screen, slammer screen. Ran this a ton last year. Offensive line, we're getting out. He's going to catch this football and hit this right at the seam. This play, we ran a ton. De'Ami ran a ton.
Nowhere to go
This is special, though. This is a special play, man. This is how you say game. End of the game right there, because I'm an explosive, dynamic, competitive, tough football player that makes this offense better right now. Brian, we're juiced up. Back to you.
Appreciate you, Logan. Always great seeing you in the film room. Now, when you're talking about Debo Samuel, it's so exciting because he's adding to the firepower the Commanders already had. We're taking a look at the top pass catchers in Washington. Terry McLaurin, and of course, we brought him back, Zach Ertz. Now you see Terry with another 1,000-yard season, but Zach Ertz got it done as well with 654 yards, 20 touchdowns between the two guys. Gotta imagine Debo is gonna add to that number. And speaking of Zach Ertz, I got to kick it with him the minute he re-signed with the Washington Commanders and asked him how excited he is to run it back in this potent offense for a second year in a row. It's time for Best Seat in the House, presented by SeatGeek. The most disruptive idea in ticketing, a ticket that works. Expect the expected. SeatGeek.
And we love seeing you play the game, man. You have so much fun. I think in training camp, I don't know if there's anybody out there having more fun than Zach Ertz, man. It was so cool. And now you're going back into this tight end room. Bates coming back, your boy, man. You both got the bag now. You mentioned in the presser how important it is to be able to play in this offensive system again. Jaden being in this offensive system for a second time. Can you talk a little bit about the value in being able to run it back with that same tight end crew, but with the same type of offense?
Yeah, I think, the tight end crew, like I spoke about, was probably last year probably the most complete tight end room I've been a part of in my career. I mean, you got a guy like John Bates, who, in my opinion, is the best blocking tight end in the NFL. And other guys may argue, but I don't think it's close in my mind.
I'm not going to argue with you.
Ben Sinnott is going to be a really good football player. He's almost like the H-back. He's a move guy. He's really, really good in space blocking. And then you kind of got a guy like me that has made his mark in the passing game for a long time, much older than Ben, obviously.
Not that much older.
And we got a bunch of young tight ends, too, that are very talented, too. And so for me, it was just a room that I truly, truly enjoyed being a part of. And I feel like our room can even take the next step. this year versus last year. And so I'm excited to be back with the guys. Can't wait to be back with them. And April 22nd can't get here soon enough.
Always great to hear from Zach Ertz. You can catch our full sit-down interview on the Commanders YouTube page. Now, here's a look at some of the familiar faces returning to Washington, because it wasn't just Zach Ertz. It wasn't just John Bates. We brought back in future Hall of Famer Bobby Wagner. We brought our kicker back, Zane Gonzalez. The running back room is going to look good, but I think people were really excited about being able to bring back Marcus Mariota because he was extremely valuable for Jaden Daniels' development. Now, it's time to welcome in a special guest to the show that knows a thing or two about winning in the burgundy and gold. Welcoming in our game day crew member, Super Bowl champion, and future Hall of Famer, Brian Mitchell. B, what up, bro?
What up, bro? How you doing?
Hey, man, always good to see you. Now, we just heard from Zach Ertz, and he was talking about the value and running back this Cliff Kingsbury offense for a second time. You have been a part of some of the best offenses, man. How important is that familiarity with the offense?
Well, I think it's very important because, they went through a lot of great things last year, and then you don't want to have to go all the way back to relearn this stuff. All the guys that were already in this offense, they're going to hit the ground running and get back to where they were quickly.
B, I mean, obviously, like Zach being back, his leadership's really important. But one piece I look at specifically is Bobby Wagner and his ability to kind of guide some of these new pieces. How important is getting him back and that leadership to kind of say, this is what it means to be a Commander moving into 2025?
Well, for me, I think that's the most important person to get back. If you look at Bobby's influence last year, he affected people on offense, defense, and special teams, even the coaches. And when you have a guy that has played that long, that well, that people look up to and believe in, you want to make sure you have that voice still in your locker room.
Well, B. Mitch, I hate admitting this right now, but I am. At the end of the day, you're the only one of us to win a Super Bowl, so you know what it takes to go win a Super Bowl. And it takes a lot of trench warfare. I'm talking about offensive line and defensive line. Can you tell me how you feel? Did you feel as happy as I did about Tunsil and about Kinlaw when you saw those guys sign?
Well, I think when you look at guys 6'5", 320, and things of that nature, you're trying to compete against a team that just won the Super Bowl, the Eagles. Yeah. And I think they very much wanted to address that situation. You cannot win football if you don't win in the trenches, and Washington got bigger in the trenches, and let's hope the play come with that.
Now, B, I'm always tuned in every morning to you and JP's show. How many fans, if you can remember, how many fans have you gave the one finger salute because they called in not happy as we are about some of our acquisitions?
Well, I would say about 80% of them because one thing about it, they only think about small people, the bigger names, the most expensive people. You have to build something. I think, listen, everyone has said if we get Adam Peters, then we're going to let him do his job. That's what we have to get done. They got Adam Peters. He worked miracles last year. Let the man go on and do what he has to do. But everyone is always complaining because they want to get somebody else. To hell with them. They're not building any damn team. Adam is building, and I'm 100% with him.
And B. Mitch, earlier Tana mentioned not only the new guys, but all the guys we were able to retain. When you make a run like we did last year, man, how great is it to see guys wanting to come back in the fold and try to run it back?
Well, that's the best thing. When you see all those guys that were sitting out there, probably going out there and seeing other people sign for money, and they say, nah, I want to go back there. There's something special going on there. And you hear Larry Tunsil talking about Jaden Daniels. They understand what they have at the helm, the guy at the main position in Jaden, and they want to come back here. Hey, also, let's think of it. DQ takes care of these guys. When you're a veteran player and you have a coach who's going to understand your body and give you that chance to recuperate throughout a week, you definitely want to be with that.
See that picture behind you, B. Mitch? That's what I'm talking about. That's a picture of trench warfare right there. I see Dexter Manley and Charles
Manley. That's Ringo, baby. That's Ringo.
Coming through the hole right there. I love it.
And B. Mitch, we are going to list out your top 5 acquisitions in just a moment. But I asked these guys to start the show. I got to ask you, who's been your favorite acquisition so far?
As soon as everyone asked me who I thought we should bring back or who we should get, and I said Bobby Wagner. Listen, I felt that Bobby came in last year and was a great influence on his team. And when you have a guy that still has that influence and can still play, you know what I'm saying? He can still ball out. You want to keep that going because I think a lot of these guys looked up to Bobby. They didn't want to disappoint him. So the coaches can say what they want a lot of time, but it's the guys in the locker room who can really, really get you motivated to play well. I think Bobby did that. So I felt he was number one in my book.
It's great to see Bobby and them boys back in that locker room. It's even better to see all of these acquisitions. B-Mitch, we appreciate your time, brother. Always great to talk to a future Hall of Famer. I feel like I talk to future Hall of Famers all day.
I appreciate that.
Put it there. Put it there.
Now, we're going to say bye to B-Mitch and see his top 5
Fred
acquisitions.
is the future talker famer.
Shout out to B-Mitch, man. Let's take a look at his top 5 acquisitions. Shout out to B. It's time for Top 5, presented by UA Local 5 Plumbers, protecting the health of the nation's capital since 1890. Now, on game day, we do B-Mitch's Big 5, but on this one, we're doing B-Mitch's Top 5 roster acquisitions. Of course, everybody is excited about bringing back future Hall of Famer Bobby Wagner. And then you got that blind side that Logan Paulson was talking about in Laramie Tunsil, and a dynamic weapon in Debo Samuel Sr. Then you're bringing back some guys that got it done last year in Zach Ertz and Marcus Mariota. Again, shout out to future Hall of Famer B-Mitch for putting this list together for us. And there are more acquisitions coming this April in the 2025 NFL Draft. Now, here's a look at the Commanders' draft capital as it stands today. We have the 29th pick in the first round. Then we have the 61st pick in the second round. Then in the 4th round, we have the 128th pick. We required that from Houston when we traded for Laramie Tunsil. Then in round 6, we have the 205th pick. And then to close out the 7th round, we have the 245th pick. Now, that's a lot of toys to play with for AP and fellas. So let's send it to our guys to talk more about this draft and preview some positions that we might need to fill. It's time for Draft Insights, powered by Microsoft Copilot. Logan, take it away.
Copilot's such a great tool because I can look at this data set provided by the Combine app and say, what kind of things do I look for the Washington Commanders? I type in fastest 10-yard split for the defensive lineman. Dan Quinn's talked about how important that is in his evaluation for defensive line. I look at the top here, James Pierce Jr. with a 1.56 10-yard split from Tennessee. This is a guy that fits kind of that get-off explosiveness box for the Washington Commanders and is a potential fit at 29 for them. All right, guys, so I'm using the Copilot here to kind of look up 10 times, right? And the reason I'm looking up 10 times is because I think we don't need to worry about offensive linemen anymore, right? Yeah. Because specifically left tackle. Because at 29, I thought, man, we have to take a left tackle because we're not going to
anymore.
Not anymore. Why is that, Fred?
Laramie Tunsil.
Because the bacon's here, right, Tanner?
Yes, sir. Big guy.
So I'm looking at 10s for defensive linemen because in his press conference, Dan Quinn was like, hey, man, I like guys that get off the ball fast. So when I seen James Pierce Jr., he's got the fastest 10 of the combine. He's got the fastest 40 for a defensive lineman. I don't know if he's going to be there at 29, but I say that's a guy that's got the juice that Dan Quinn's looking for. And so, Fred, when you got a pass rusher, right, that can affect the quarterback, I feel like it makes the entire defense better. When we look at free agency, they made some nice signings, right? Nice signings, some good depth pieces, but we need that lettuce, that tomato,
the
right?
Guy.
Could James Pierce Jr. be that guy?
He can be that guy because his get off is vicious. Not only is his get off, he knows how to lean, turn the corner, get low, long arm extension. This guy's a player, and what I really do like, I don't like combine freaks, but I do like people that film matches the combine. When you look at this guy, he gets to the quarterback with bad intentions. His film matches the combine. I think he'll be a great pick. You already said it though. Will he still be there?
Will he still be around that late?
I mean, that's a great question, though. You know, but the other thing that this Copilot shows me is that there's a bunch of other freaks at the combine, right, Tana? And I think that's a great question. I think about Landon Jackson, right, from Arkansas. He had a 40-inch vertical. He's got 10.8 broad jump. That's all here on the Copilot, right, which is great. So I say there's other people there that maybe don't have the juice, the 10-yard split, but they got some athletic ability and they're violent football players, big dudes that can get it done, right?
Yeah, most definitely. There's always going to be guys in this draft with size. And like I say, are you going to look for the guy with the high upside and not the best film in the world? Are you going to go with the guy with the best film and not the best metrics? And I think that's the difference right there. Because one, you got to have patience with. One should be ready to play now. And I think that's the dilemma that coaches be in at this time of the year. Am I adding somebody for the roster for now? Or am I adding somebody for the roster for tomorrow?
I was just finna hit on that because you might get to a situation where the draft kind of change. You know, every year we hear that something happens in the draft where it shifts everything. You might get a player that we didn't think that was going to be there. Might not necessarily need him right now, but it's a huge upgrade.
But he falls to you.
He falls to us, and he's a one of those those talents that you can't pass up on. So what do you do then?
And I think that's one of the things about this free agency period that gets me so excited is we don't need to take anybody. I picked defensive linemen because that's what Dan talked about, and who knows what they do, right? But there's going to be good football players there at 29. There could be a good receiver there, right? There could be a good corner. There could be a good safety. We talked about that, right? And even if there's an offensive lineman there. So I think that's what this free free agency period did for me, and we talked about this on the Command Center show. It's just getting good football players says, hey, I can take the best player available. I can take a complimentary piece for Terry McLaurin.
Great teams do not depend on the draft to fill spots 100%. Of the same year that they're playing. They use the draft to weaponize the next year. That's what great teams do. Great teams go into the draft having free agency. I already fill the gaps. All right, you said we needed a left tackle, we went fill that gap. You said we needed depth at D tackle, we fill that gap. They say, hey, what about the cornerback position? Jonathan Jones, we filled that gap. So now when I go in here, and now as a GM, it's best player available. And what did we have happen last year that we didn't think was going to happen? We had a D tackle.
Jazan Newton.
Jazan literally falls to us in the second round. And guess what we do? We run it up there because we didn't think he was going to be there. The same thing that happened now because we're not anxious to have to get a certain commodity, and not just anxious to get that commodity, but anxious for the commodity to actually work.
Yeah, I think that's 100% right. And Tana, like, we talked a lot here, but is there anybody you're like, man, not anybody specific, but position you're saying, hey, man, at 29, this would work for the Commanders?
I don't have nobody specifically, but I think when it comes down to just talent, I'm big on talent. I'm big on whether there's a receiver, whether there's a corner, whether there's a center. I mean, you can't miss out on a talented person there or a talented player that's going to be available. And I think, one of the things that stand out to me is I'm wondering if all these guys, like you hear so much about these quarterbacks that might go early. What if the quarterbacks go a little later? Does that push some of that talent down to?
I think that's a great point.
So that's what I'm looking at. I'm like, I don't know. I don't feel like they have a clear-cut guy that's going to be that number 2 at number 1 pick. So things might change.
Absolutely, man. But the thing I'm excited for is to watch this team get better and to watch Adam Peters consistently make the right decision. And so, it's a fun time of year for me, and I know it's a fun time of year for you guys. Also.
What if the numbers say trade down, trade back, and now I can get a guy from Iowa State like Higgins, like big receiver, can get down the 100%. Field, that can run, like low risk, high reward type guy. So it's all about how can I manipulate the draft in my favor. Because don't forget, for Debo, for Larry Tunsil, we gave up some draft capital. The only way to get that draft capital back is to push back for the guys that's trying to run up the draft.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even see you be the camo, man. It threw me off, man. I'm in the dark. What's going on here, man?
Letting my guys cook, paying some bills. Great job, fellas. There's a lot to be excited about when we're entering this draft. But it's still the offseason, baby, and we have something that Commanders fans can be extremely excited about. Now, do you think you have what it takes to be a member of the Command Force? The official Washington Commanders dance team is looking for technically trained dancers and entertainers to join the squad. Now, if you're ready to perform at every Commanders home game and represent the team and the community, go to our website to register. That's commanders.com/command-force/auditions. The deadline to register is March 23rd, so make sure you get on it. Now, Fred, you auditioned for them a little bit last year.
And as you see, I did not make it. And it's all totally okay with me because I didn't make it in dancing. That don't mean I can't teach football. And this is what y'all need to understand. March 31st, Northwest Stadium, we got a football camp. The young learns from the old, and we enjoy getting out there in a pro football field, the same field that Jaden Daniels plays on. Your child gets the chance to be out there with me and a couple of more old guys and maybe a couple of young guys. You never know. Be there or be square.
I love that he looked at you and Tana and said, young guys, man. That's a lot of respect.
No, I looked at him.
Commanders family, a lot of things to be excited for, man. Can't wait to see what Fred does for the youth. You know, Fred love the kids. Commanders family, for Santana Moss, Fred Smoot, Logan Paulson, I'm Brian Cooper Jr. You can catch us every Thursday on the Commanders YouTube page. This is Command Center. We out.